What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Bowl game preview predictions continuing today with this last video here. Again, as the Saturday slate is full, we got 4 games today. 3 of them already uploaded. 3 will come tomorrow. We have the Georgia State Panthers and the Utah State Aggies coming from Boise, Idaho. It's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, back for another rendition of its starchy potato week goodness. This should be a very fun game between the Panthers and Aggies, and we'll talk everything about GSU and USU here in a second. But before we dive on into that, you guys know I got to say thank you for all the love and support the channel has seen continuing on here into the postseason. Anything you guys do to interact with the channel helps to support it, whether it's as simple as watching the video, whether it's liking, commenting, sharing, or whether it's doing the big thing that helps me out a ton, hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell. You guys are helping to support what I do here on YouTube. So whatever you guys are willing and or able to do, I will greatly appreciate and take with open arms. Now, like I've said throughout every bowl game preview prediction so far, sometimes it can be a little tough to tell which team, or actually which players are entering the transfer portal, who's opting out to prepare for the draft, etc., etc. So I have a list of names on my second monitor. If there are names that I missed, or if there are other names that you guys feel like, hey, this is definitely an important name to know, or they just opted out, or anything like that, Panther fans, Aggie fans, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be very appreciative and grateful to hear what you guys have to say. But let's dive on into the stats that both these teams have put up so far this year. That is, if my slide would change. There it goes. Now it did. Let's dive on into the Georgia State offense. And right off the bat, I have to mention a couple of weapons that were huge for Georgia State this year that will not be playing in the bowl game as they have entered the transfer portal. So, taking a look here at the running back room, it's going to be a big mystery who's carrying the football here for this team, besides, of course, the quarterback, whose name I will mention in a minute. But Marcus Carroll has transferred off here to Missouri. He is a top rusher across everyone in the entire nation. 1,350 yards, 13 touchdowns on 274 carries. He is the leading rusher of this Panthers attack, and the Panthers are also losing their leading receiver as well in Robert Lewis. 70 catches, 877 yards, and 7 touchdowns. All of those marks led the team. So already without your 2 most dynamic offensive weapons, so the offense is going to be run through this quarterback more so than it has all season long in Darren Granger. 2,364 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions on 67% completion percentage. Now, again, where does the rush production come from? Well, Granger is known to get outside of the pocket and run. Does have 8 rushing touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry average so far this year. But guys like KZ Adams and Freddie Brock and even some other guys down the line are probably going to get a lot of carries here in this game, and are going to get a chance to prove themselves. But behind the receiving threat of Robert Lewis, still a lot of very good weapons. Tailgate Williams, 46 catches, 581 yards, 5 touchdowns. Carroll was a nice threat out of the backfield. Of course, he is gone. But then some other guys like Carter, Thompson, and then your tight end as well in Amon Green, who had 4 receiving touchdowns this year, are going to play a lot bigger parts here in this game with Robert Lewis being gone. This is a pretty solid team on third down, 44.6%. However, third downs have kind of started to get away from this team, and you'll see what I mean by that in a minute when we take a look at the defensive stats. And this is the Georgia State team that was really rolling. It got off to a great start this year and then just started to plummet, and the defense was a big reason why. The defense just wasn't playing as well as it had in the early going in the first half of the season for the Georgia State Panthers. Now, albeit the schedule did get a whole lot tougher, but the defense definitely lessened their play and lessened their production down the season, especially on third downs. This overall, when you take a look at the percentage, is not a good third down defense really by any stretch of a mile. 45.2%. You want to be holding opponents to under 40% at least on third down. So having 5% over that number is just not very good, and a big reason why I think Georgia State has struggled down the stretch. Now, you are going to be without a pretty good defensive weapon there in Bryce Brown, a corner, 34 tackles, 6 pass defended, 1 pick. He actually led the entire team in pass defended with those 6. But all in all, I mean, this is a secondary that definitely has a lot of good players. However, definitely hasn't shown it. They allow almost 300 yards per game through the air. The pass rush is there. The rush defense is there. This is a defense that just needs to step up, needs to have its playmakers make some big plays. And especially going against an offense here with the Utah State Aggies that has had some inconsistency at the quarterback position. Cooper Legis and McKay Hillstead both have over 1,000 yards and at least 10 touchdowns, both of them with 8 picks as well. And then Levi Williams has come in and played some here and there as well. But both quarterbacks that have had significant playing time, throwing at least 140 passes in Hillstead and Legas, have 8 interceptions this season. Now, Legas does have a lot better of a touchdown to interception ratio, but this is a Utah State team that needs to limit the interceptions in this game. For one, the offensive line struggles against anyone with any semblance of a pass rush. While you take a look at Georgia State, 2.25 sacks per game is not too shabby. They definitely have a lot of guys that can get home to the quarterback here. Now, Utah State is not really missing anyone notable offensively that I could find. Devon Booth and Rashul Fison, those two leading rushers there, as well as Robert Briggs, should all be healthy and ready to go playing in this game. You have a 1,000-yard receiver in Jalen Royals, who had 1,023 yards, 14 touchdowns. You take a look at Terrell Vaughn, 847 yards and 10 touchdowns. You also have Micah Davis, who has 628 yards and 6 touchdowns. There's a ton of offensive weapons here, but it has to be able to limit the mistakes, and it has to start limiting the pressure that Georgia State will bring back to whoever happens to play quarterback, whether that's Legas or Hillstead or maybe even Levi Williams comes in and plays as well. Now, let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. And again, much like what we've seen with Georgia State, the defense is just not a strong suit here for the Utah State Aggies. And what you'll notice is Utah State definitely a lot better of a passing team than a rush team. However, again, they can run the football. Georgia State a lot better of a rush team than a pass team. So both offenses are going to be attacking each other's defensive weaknesses. This is not a very good rush defense here in the Utah State Aggies. They allow almost 200 rush yards per game. However, what they don't have for a rush game, they make up for with their secondary. Now, 216 pass yards per game is definitely not a fantastic number, but it's not a bad number by any stretch of a mile either. This is a pretty darn solid pass defense, 53 pass defended, 10 picks. They got a really good ball hawking secondary. They're able to force turnovers. They have some semblance of a pass rush. Now, they do struggle on third downs there as well, but I think this is going to be an offensive shootout type game. It leads me into my what to watch for. You're kind of like your keys to the game, whatever you want to call them. There are things I think you should keep an eye on while you're paying attention to this one. Won't spend too much time on the first one here for Georgia State because I've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but with Carroll and Lewis in the portal, that's your leading rusher and your leading receiver. Darren Granger is going to be the offensive focus. He's going to be relied on a whole lot more than he has throughout the entirety of the season. He had guys like Carroll and Lewis there to bail him out. Granger's going to have to do a lot with his arms, with his legs. Now, I think Darren Granger can do it. He's a very overlooked quarterback, and again, just being a player at Georgia State, you're not going to get a whole lot of media attention, but he should. Darren Granger's a much better player than I think the stats even give him credit for. I think he'll be able to run the offense really, really well here in this game. However, when you take a look at the defense, right, the defensive backs have to keep up with the tempo. You look at that first bullet point there for the Utah State Aggies. The offense works really, now look, the offense works even when they're not running tempo. However, it works at least 10 times more effectively when it controls the tempo, when it is go, go, go. When it is high tempo, fast pace, that is when Utah State is at its best, especially in the pass game. And this is a Georgia State secondary that has struggled so far this year. And take a look there, only 28 pass defended. That is a very, very low number. The secondary is going to need to keep up with the tempo that this Aggie offense likes to run at, and they have to be stronger on third downs, especially defensively. Offensively, they're going to get their chances. They're going to convert their third downs, and Georgia State's going to go score their points. But you have to be stronger defensively on third down to be able to limit what Utah State is going to do. Again, I've already talked about that first bullet point. This is an offense that works when it controls the tempo, and I think it will. No matter who plays quarterback, you're not really losing any weapons there on the outside. You're not losing any weapons in the running back room either. I think this is an offense that is going to work, and it's going to work really, really well. However, defensively, you have to be able to key in on Granger and especially limit his ability to get outside of the pocket. When you take away Robert Lewis from the passing attack, sure, there are other guys there that can catch the ball, but you take away by far and away their best offensive weapon in the short game, in the downfield pass game, that just He is a very, very good player that will surely be missed by Georgia State here. So you have to key in on Granger. Don't let him get outside of the pocket and beat you with his legs, because I think Granger's going to try to do that a lot here in this game. But the line of scrimmage and turnover battle, I think, are going to be tough to win here for Utah State. I think they definitely have the disadvantage on the line of scrimmage. And you take a look at the turnover battle, hey, they need to hope that their quarterbacks can limit the interceptions here in this game. Now, Utah State is the favorite here. Georgia State has slid late here in the season. Now, albeit the schedule did get a whole lot tougher. But a reason that the Georgia State Panthers have slid down here and have just not performed as well and aren't winning football games like they did in the first half of the year is because that defense can't keep up with some of the offenses that the Sun Belt Conference saw. And I think it's going to play out to be a similar story here. Don't get me wrong. I think Georgia State's going to have a ton of fight, a ton of energy, and there's going to be a lot of points here where Georgia State looks like it is going to pull away here and win this game. But I think Utah State has enough offense in them. They have plenty of offense in them. They're not losing any of their really star weapons, at least as I'm sitting here and recording this video. And I think the Utah State Aggies, and what I think is going to be an offensive showdown, will come out on top. I think just a little bit too much offense here for this Panther defense to handle, and the Aggies will come away with the win in the Idaho Potato Bowl. 38-34 is the way I see this one playing out. Let me know your score in the comment section down below. But hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. 3 more videos coming out for you tomorrow. We'll see you guys then. Goodbye.